Hey, what's up, viewers? Patrick from Ball vs. Only, back with another YouTube video. In this episode, number 5 of Discouragement Week on Ball versus of the Day. And today's verse comes out of Galatians 2, verse 20, which says, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. And that's what that verse means. And it's time for our Royal Rangers recap. And we're going to start and we're going to stay in Genesis. So the past couple of Wednesday nights, I'm not going to remember all of it, but we've been talking about faith. And we're going to start in Genesis 3, verse 1. And it says, Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? So basically what's happening is the serpent is going to start talking to Adam and Eve. So verse 3 is where he says where she says to the servant, we may eat from the tree in the garden, but God told us that we should not eat from the tree that's in the middle of the garden, which I believe that is the tree of good and evil. So then what happens next is that, yes, it says, she says to the serpent, and, we must not touch it or we'll die. Verse 4 says, You will not certainly die, the servant said to the woman. And now we're going to stay in Genesis, and we're going to now go to chapter 15, verses 1 through 6. Now, I do apologize in advance, because there's this one word that I really do not understand, and I apologize if I mispronounce it. So in Genesis 15, starting at verse 1, I'm going to read through verse 6. And it says, After this, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward. But Abram said, Sovereign Lord, what can you give me since I remain childless, and the one who will inherit my estate is Eleazar of Damascus? And Abram said, You have given me no children, so a servant in my household will be my heir. Then the word of the Lord came to him, This man will not be your heir, but a son who is your own flesh and blood will be your heir. He took him outside and said, Look up at the sky and count the stars, if indeed you can count them. Then he said to him, So shall your offspring be. Abram believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. And now we're going to go to chapter 17. So in chapter 17, now I do want to explain another quick thing before we continue here. Abram, he didn't have this name forever. God actually changed his name to Abraham, but in Genesis, like the first couple of chapters of Genesis, the name is Abram. But I don't know where it happens, but somewhere in the future is where his name changes to Abraham. So Abram became Abraham. Genesis 17 verses 6. I'm going to skip down also to verse 15, 16, and 17. And here's what it says starting at verse 6. And it says, I will make you very fruitful. I will make nations of you, and the king will come from you. Now we're going to skip down to verses 15, 16, and 17. And it says, God also said to Abraham, As for Sarah, your wife, or Sarai, your wife, you are no longer to call her Sarai. Her name will be Sarah. So this woman now becomes Sarah. There's another name change. I will bless her and will surely give you a son by her. I will bless her so that she will be the mother of nations. Kings of peoples will come from her. And finally in verse 17, which says, Abraham fell face down, he laughed, and said to himself, will a son be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah bear a child at the age of 90? And that is all for the verse portion. And the verse to leave you with today is Proverbs 11, verse 24, which says, one person gives freely, yet gains even more. Another withholds unduly, but comes to poverty. And that's going to do for the video. Thanks for watching, and until next time, me again, viewers, in every way, God's way is always the best way.